Hey everyone, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kat.
Hey, Caitlin.
I feel like we have to differentiate.
We do.
Somehow.
We need to get better about saying our names because I've had so many people reach out and they're like, I don't know which one is which. At this point, it really doesn't even matter.
Yeah, you're just listening to both of us. So. We're one person. We're the cats. Yeah, that's
like
it.
literally people just refer to us as the cats, which I'm okay with.
Yeah. It's very easy.
Who else is known as the cats? No one.
No one.
We're special.
We should start a band. Not really.
But yeah, that's true. We actually like recently discovered there's like a coffee shop. Was it a coffee shop nearby?
Oh, there
That's
is.
called like Cat's Cafe. We're like, we have to record like an episode or something.
But it opened right before
Corona.
coronavirus.
Yeah.
So
we'll go back.
We'll go back. It's also nicknamed the Corona Cafe because it was really busy right before shutdown. Yeah. So I'm worried.
They had to be forced to shut down. But anyway, we have another special guest.
Yay.
Like I've been loving the last few weeks because we've got to interview a lot of people that otherwise probably would have been hard to get on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, today we have Jonathan from Brew Watches on.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, girls. Good to be here. Thank you for having me today.
No, thank you for spending some time with us today. We're very excited.
Do you prefer to go by Jonathan or John?
I like Jonathan. There's just so many Johns and Jonathans out there. Small difference.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of people. I think I just started calling you John because everyone that like referred to you as John, but like your name is Jonathan. That's easy to remember. My husband's name is Jonathan, so that's an easy one.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Any little help.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, thank you again for coming on the show today. We're really excited. I did a live stream with you. I don't even know. Like all time is lost at this point.
I think.
Is it 2 weeks ago?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All time really is lost.
All time is lost. It's the Twilight Zone over here. But yeah, that went really well and we enjoyed it. And then yeah, we've recently got one of your master graphs in and we're having lots of fun playing around with that. But yeah, we wanted to get you on the show because I personally, I love what you're doing. I love, where your inspiration comes from. But for our listeners that don't know you or your brand, could you give us like a little brief summary of who you are?
Yeah, definitely. So I started the brand in 2015, so that's 5 years ago. And I set off in a different path, whereas I didn't want to create another race car or space watch. I wanted it to be unique to me. But I also wanted people to be able to connect to it. So Brew came from designing watches for other brands while I was in cafes. And I said, if there's a way to connect this place, this time of the day at the cafe to your watch, then that would be unique. It could be poetic. And so I created these watches that have small hints and details of espresso machines, and they focus on timing a shot of espresso. So it could be novel in a way, but it could also be useful as a tool. But it's really up for the wearer to interpret and enjoy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I need to get I think that's my next goal. So I've just started making non-Keurig coffee myself. I've started with the AeroPress.
I watched her today, and this is a process, by the way. I'm still in the K-cup phase. You cannot talk me out of a K-cup.
Yeah, but I think that's my next goal. It's getting into maybe learning how to do espressos and stuff like that. That's just more money that I need to spend though.
Yeah.
But it looks really fun.
Yeah.
And to be able to make it at home, how awesome is that?
Yeah, we have more time for it these days. In the past, it's always get up and go, last minute to work. But these days, no excuse. I know everybody has extra time to do what they need.
Absolutely. This is the time now to make a habit of something.
No, because then you get used to your fancy coffee and then you have to get up and rush out the door in the morning again at some point, and you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
I'd rather just not have it. But yeah, I don't want to know how good it was and then lose it. I would just rather never know the good parts.
Don't know what you're missing out on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with that. Okay, so you used to design watches for other brands. So what's your background before Brew?
Right. So I studied industrial design. So that's focused on product design. It could be anything from I was doing flatware, so like knives and forks and spoons. I was doing lighting designs, some furniture. But then I got my first internship job at Movado, and I think that's where I really tuned into the watch industry. So that opened my eyes to all the manufacturing and design and so many watches that are out there. It was overwhelming, but it was exciting.
Now, were you into watches prior to that? Like, did you have a collection or did you like them growing up?
No, not, I think similar to a lot of other people, I had my Swatch watches when I was younger.
Yeah.
But again, when you're younger, you don't appreciate or understand these things as well as when you're older. So you wear it and you enjoy it, but it didn't have that effect on me. It was just it was another toy, it was another piece of enjoyment. But when you're young, everything is just left and right. It's overload. But as I became more aware and understood how these are made and accepted and shared, that's when I hooked into it. And not to forget where I came from. So my father, he's a jeweler for Tiffany's, and then both my great-grandfathers were jewelry designers for Cartier.
Oh, very
wow.
cool.
So I was surrounded by it when I was younger. Again, you're becoming influenced and you're absorbing this information. But sometimes when you're so young, you don't realize you're absorbing it, and you don't have a use for it just yet.
Yeah.
But it's still becoming archived in your mind.
That's really cool. Man, I'm jealous. I don't
Yeah.
have any like family that does anything cool like that.
I feel like everybody else's family is way cooler than my family. No offense, Mom and Dad. I love you.
No, that's really awesome. And I'll tell our listeners, like, if you haven't yet, go check out Brew's website, because there's like, you have a couple of pages where you do more like design type stuff and drawings and all that on there. And I find it really, really cool. And you've got some videos too, I think, that are pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's good to showcase this, especially as an online brand, I would say. A lot of it can't be experienced in person, and I can't always walk people through the entire process. So
Yeah.
you always try to do your best job displaying it visually.
No,
And
I think it's awesome.
every component gets drawn out, every component gets tested, and so there's such thought and technicality to each piece. And then, of course, as a whole, sometimes it can get overlooked, and that's okay. As a wearer, there's no real responsibility versus just enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a designer, you're proud of all these details, so you really want to showcase all the little parts that go into making it.
Yeah. So walk us through, like, did you quit doing what you were doing to start your watch company? Or
Yeah, how did you go
how
from
was that?
Movado
Yeah.
to designing your own watch brand?
So there's a few stages. So Movado was like a 6 month to a year, crash course. And I was still in school. I was a junior in college at the time.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll tell you that the stars aligned, because I walked into one of my friends. I was just out and about and talking about my experiences. And she said, "Oh, well, if you need a job, we're designing in Long Island City, which is in Queens, and we need a designer." I said, "Oh, sure." So I was doing fashion watches for like 2 years, everything from like Under Armour watches to like Coleman Outdoor, Jessica Simpson, like Nicole Miller, your fashion watches
Yeah.
that you see in
Mhm.
Macy's. So again, I was so hyped and excited to be a part of the process, and they give you full reign, everything from designing to talking to manufacturers, going through the samples, testing it. Is this good? Is this going to be efficient? Price points. And then, of course, at the end, I'd have to pitch it to sales reps that would, or buyers for like Nordstrom's, Macy's, and they'd either give you a thumbs up or thumbs down. And sometimes they wouldn't tell you why they didn't like it. So as a designer, I'd have to go back to the drawing boards and say, why did this work, or why didn't it work?
Yeah.
And 2 years doesn't sound like a long time, but every day it was definitely another crash course. And then I see what happened to me happens to a lot of other people. The fashion watches didn't really do it for me anymore. I knew that there was a new level of processes, quality, materials, manufacturing, all these different pieces that I couldn't get in a fashion watch, at that caliber.
Yeah.
So I said, what if I was to get into like a higher end watch? What would that look like? And then, I'm walking up Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. I'm looking at Van Cleef and Arpels.
Oh.
I'm looking at Omega and all
For what
the
extreme
Tourneau
to the
places.
next?
But if you handle those watches, and I know you girls do, you become inspired. You see you see a night and day difference between those watches and the fashion watches.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily one is better than the other. You know, it's, you know, in the eye of the beholder. If one makes you happier, watches are definitely an emotional experience. But there was just something very exciting about like the high end. I won't call them Swiss watches because they come from all over the world, but something about like a high end manufactured watch that I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I was given an opportunity from a freelance point of view to work on this individual's brand for a year and a half. And he was in Manhattan, small little brand. And he basically gave me full reign. He said, "Hey, Jonathan, I need new watches designed. I need marketing materials like photographs. And I need you to deal with the manufacturers because I have no experience. You know, I basically, he's got the funds and he wants to create a watch brand. And this would be my playground. And he'll fly me out to Switzerland, Italy, Asia, and visit all these folks. And I just have to make it happen."
Nice.
And it was kind of like a barter. Like, I can't pay for all your time, but I'll introduce you to people.
That's
And
really
that's where, like, you know, that's where I really got excited with all this.
yeah. I'd be like, where do I sign up?
Right. I get to travel. Wait, what? And I get to do whatever I want to do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I was like 24 at the time. So
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like a dream.
Forget it.
Who wouldn't do that at 24?
Well, you know, but they all, that's the caveat is you don't get paid.
Yeah.
So
I don't think at 24 you're like, I'll figure out something.
Just like move back in with my
Yeah.
parents. I mean, it's fine. No worries. I won't be home because I'll be traveling all the time. Yeah,
yeah.
I got that.
That is really cool. Wow. That's amazing. And then so what inspired, so I think we talked about it when we did the live stream. Your first watch that you did was pretty big, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the learning curve was still in motion.
Yeah.
So I created a 43 millimeter square watch, and
But that's a bold
A
move.
brick.
That is a bold move.
it was
You
bold.
created a brick
Yeah.
that told what time it was.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, you know, what most entrepreneurs or designers, the main struggle is to say, I'm done, I'm complete, and put something out, right?
Yeah.
So if you wait too long, you never do it, and you never do it with that same excitement.
Yeah.
So even though that wasn't the perfect watch, I was just so happy that I started running towards, you know, a brand
Yeah.
that whatever it was, it could have been whatever crazy piece. At least the gears were turning and I was out of the gates. And, you know, then the refinement had to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's true. And so with that watch, I mean obviously you're by yourself, right? Like you don't have a partner or anything with the company. So
That's right,
So you're
yeah.
designing all this stuff like by yourself, creating it. Was it hard to find, sources for the watch?
So fortunately, when I was doing that traveling and these individuals were introducing me to all these suppliers
Okay.
and folks that assemble, those were the people I stayed in touch with. And, you know, out of like proper ethics, I reached out to my contact and said, do you mind if I work with all these individuals? And I think he said, you know, good luck. If you can make it, by all means. I said, all right, what am I getting into? But let's do this.
That's really cool. Yeah. And did you have like in the back of your head, did you always want to go with like the coffee theme and the espresso? Is that something that was already there, or did that become like, was that later on that you thought of that as far as like
Yeah,
the inspiration for your watches?
It was such a novel, fun idea.
Yeah.
And I couldn't escape it because
Yeah.
everywhere I went to work, I was at another cafe. So I was getting hit left and right with it.
That's cool.
And there was this thing that I captured and I couldn't get rid of, which was I loved brands like Van Cleef and Arpels. Like naturally, they're ridiculous prices, almost unaffordable for the normal folks. But they did a really wonderful job with their storytelling visually, right? They have these two people on a bridge and they kind of work their way up through the day. They kiss and they mechanically work their way down.
Yeah.
And I said, how beautiful is this storytelling? It's so poetic. It's beautiful. And do people even wear watches these days to tell time? It's like
Yeah.
that. If I could have something like that, of course, you know, I'm very far from that level. but I love that philosophy of storytelling a poetic object on your wrist in your own very personal way.
I like that too. That's something like we, really haven't heard a lot from some of the brands we've,
Yeah.
talked to, is just like having that inspiration. You knew immediately like where you wanted to go with it. And it does, like your watches, they have a mood. I don't know if that makes sense, but like they make me like when I see them, just even just like visually looking at them, like I feel like I want to go grab a cup of coffee, like and make. And that's that. I mean, like you said, people don't really wear watches nowadays to tell the time. It's like it's an extension of our personalities
Yeah.
and who we are, and yeah, that's really really cool.
Yeah, I would agree. It's it's not necessarily it's a tool, yes, but it's a completely unnecessary tool. And I think the neat thing about your watches is the espresso timer. It's not too in your face, like it's very subtle.
I didn't even know
like
it was there.
I didn't either. I had no idea until I had heard your interview with 40 and 20 that was even a part of your watches. And but I think it's really neat. You can tell that you have such an extensive fashion background because your watches stand out from any other watch in the industry right now. Like there's nobody else who does a watch that's very similar to your style. And I absolutely love that because I think that it really blends. It blends that line between a fashion watch and like an actual, fine timepiece. And I absolutely adore that about your collections.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That does mean a lot. That's like the perfect way to say it. It's like, I never pretend to roll with the big guys on this, but I'll even go to a Red Bar and Adam Craniotis and Kathleen McGivney, the owners and co-owners of Red Bar, will sit down and say, "Hey, John, lay out your watches," and they've got APs on the table. They have Cartier, like real ridiculous IWC watches that it's hard to compete with, and they're so welcoming. This is another, I guess, part of what got me into this in a comfortable way and made me feel very accepted and welcomed was they would sit me down at the table and say, "Hey, Jonathan, open your roll, show us what you got." And I'm like, this one, it's no IWC. They go, "Oh, show us." And I put it on the table, and Adam would lift it up at the leg and go, "Oh, this is really beautiful." Kathleen would say, "Oh, look at these details. It's so different."
Yeah.
And it was, there is a certain level of confidence when you share. It's like your artwork, and you share it with people. And of course, there's acceptance when people purchase, but when you show to another enthusiast like yourselves or at Red Bar, and they pick it up and they enjoy it, it's just like there's nothing more sincere than appreciation from the watch folks. So
yeah,
I think that's also like why I've enjoyed this so much is the community.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's your baby. Like this is something like you created. Yeah, that's really cool. Now, I wanted to ask a little bit about, so your watches are, mecha quartz or mechanical quartz movements. For those that aren't really sure what that is, because I know that was something like me and Catlin were talking about. Like I'm a little bit familiar because I used to have I had a Tudor, man, I don't even know what it was. It was like a Prince chronograph, and it was a mechanical quartz movement, and it was really cool. But a lot of people are not familiar with that movement. Can you kind of give us like just a basic explanation of what it is?
Yeah, definitely. So I work with Seiko to produce these mecha quartz movements.
Wow.
And so the movement in the Mastergraph is called the VK68. So it's a chronograph movement. It's run by a battery, so it's a quartz movement. However, that fast clicking motion, when you engage the chronograph, that's where it's mechanically driven. So when you have that 5 beats per second, that's it's running at higher frequency, but that snapback motion, it's a clutch release that is mechanical. So that's its mechanical quality. That's why they call it mecha quartz. If it was a fully quartz watch, it would have like that smooth sweeping back slowly, or it would tick, 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 tick all the way back to its 12 o'clock position.
Yeah.
So if you open up, I'll show you a little video after this where I'll open it up and I'll show you. You could see all the release levers when you reset it. You see 4 points where it just opens up and everything just snaps back instantly.
Wow.
It's really beautiful, but that's the mechanical part of this movement.
That's really cool.
What was the inspiration for you to go towards a Mecha Quartz movement?
So two things. One was size. So the height on this versus, let's just say, what's the Seiko Chrono? It's the NE88, I think. The price on that movement and the thickness, I think the thickness is over 7.5 millimeters, and the watch itself would have been about 15 plus millimeters in height.
Yeah.
So just imagine like two of these watches stacked up. Of course, you can always hide it. There's ways to kind of create an illusion of a thinner watch. But one, the height would have killed it for me because I needed wearability. And the two definitely was the price point. So they do make the watches a lot more affordable than a mechanical watch. And then long term, this thing service-wise is going to be so self-sustainable for so many years. Whereas if you have a mechanically driven chrono, I was looking at Seagull movements. Again, it's like more affordable, beautiful movements that keeps the height at a minimum. But movements like a Seagull, however, unless you are properly lubricating and assembling it yourself and have full oversight, those are prone to breaking down like 2+ years.
Yeah.
So before I went ahead with choosing the movement, I talked to different brands, different movement manufacturers. And the number one thing beyond price is always, how has this movement been running for you and your customers long term? Because I want to see like what the movement is like in the battlefield, so to speak. Is this a watch movement that comes back for servicing often? Is it shock resistant? Is this something where the hands will be nice and steady once they're set? Or is there movements that are a little bit weaker where the hands can get thrown off with momentum? So hand balancing is another factor. And so I looked at the Mecha Quartz and it was still fairly new. When I used it, it was in the industry for like 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Not even. So I was like, I'm going to try this. And some of the other micros were in the same position. So we were all kind of trying together. And, there were some other brands that were giving me tips on assembly, saying, make sure you assemble it correct the first time. Make sure your hands are balanced just right. Test them before you do a production. And sure enough, I was going through so many prototypes of hands, the balancing of the hands has to be just right. So if you look at that big second hand, it has like this long extended counterweight. That's to make sure that the hand, when it snaps back with this mechanical movement, it has a lot of force and so much more torque than your average movement, that hand has to be balanced properly. And also we had to manufacture a special hand tube to make sure that hand sits on there so tight and snug that if somebody's rock climbing or on a motorcycle or whatever, life throws your way, that this hand and this watch overall would still be in steady, tight position always. So these are like the different thoughts that go into my mind when I'm choosing them.
Yeah, I actually I love the idea of a Mecha Quartz movement, especially in a chronograph, because normally with most chronographs, whether it's the Speedy or whatever you have, there's always like some sense of like, I don't know, delicacy with it. Like you want to be really careful. It's not a watch that I'm going to like go like throw a football with or, whatever, maybe go on a bike ride or something with, just because you want to be a little bit more careful with those movements. Whereas like with your watches, you can do whatever you want and not have to worry about it. So I think that's really cool. And for people that are, just coming into this hobby, I think it's a great option to like get your hands on a chronograph, because let's be honest, they're usually very expensive. And you kind of want to test a watch out that has those functions. This is a really great option. I was actually I was really shocked at your pricing on these watches. Yeah. Most of them are under $400, and I thought these are a freaking steal.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially after actually having one and seeing the quality. I'm just like super impressed because there's so much detail, and the quality, the finishing on the watch is amazing. So yeah, I mean, I was incredibly impressed. Pricing was where it's at.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I was almost going to be more critical of it because I knew what kind of price point it was. And I mean, that's kind of the thing, like I know we rarely say anything bad about watches that we have in, because genuinely, mean, like, we try and find something good in everything. I think you can find something good in anything.
Yeah.
But like, I think that we're also pretty critical of watches. So I intentionally wanted to find things wrong with it because of the price point, just because of what it is. I wanted to see, like, does it hold up to that? And honestly, like, the finishing, there's so many subtle details of the watch that I did not expect to see in this price point. I think it's a phenomenal product.
Yeah.
And really a great entry level. Like you were saying, you don't find a lot of entry level chronographs in a micro brand aspect either. So it's really refreshing to see so much detail go into your watches.
Thank you very much. It's tough, but I'll tell you again, the influences from being in the community and handling all the other watches. Everybody focuses on the finishing, the applied index markers, definitely the movement. Everybody wants to know what's under the hood of the watch. But I'd say it's definitely the influence over the years. Coming into this on my own, I had a set way, but then surrounding ourselves, specifically in New York and traveling around, you see like the best of the best that's out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think you ever want to compete, but once there's a certain degree that you always want to reach, and whether it's the finishing or how it wears and comfort, the different profiles. Like that was a big one. On the Mastergraph, you'll see it has like that nice sweeping curve on its side profile. When I first made my retrograph, it was more squared off, and I said, can I make this bow out a little bit differently? The case would be more expensive and more difficult to polish and finish, but I think that would be something that folks would appreciate. It also makes it feel thinner. So people were saying, this watch, whichever one, might feel very heavy. Is there a way to give the visual illusion that this watch is more wearable and thinner?
Yeah.
Seiko does an amazing job of that.
Yeah, they do.
The best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday on Instagram because I've got that King Turtle that I just bought. And that, to me, it's like, this watch should not make sense on my wrist. It's a like 42 millimeter, just huge, enormous watch. It's extremely heavy. And you know what? It feels so good. It fits really good. I don't know. Like, Seiko they work their magic somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do over there. No.
Yeah, the Japanese definitely work magic with their watches.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
But and like thinking about it now, I can actually see some of that with the Mastergraph we have and like how it fits and it slopes down. I can see some like remnants of the way like Seiko does it too, and the way it fits on the wrist. So that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a really great curvature to it that makes it sit very comfortable. And I mean, I have no problem with big bulky watches. Like, yeah, like I love it. So, but it's very, at the end of the day, I love big bulky watches, but I want them to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think, especially given yours is a square shape, it's really the first square shaped watch I think that I've even personally had.
Okay.
And it was, I'm pretty sure, too many watches. But it's incredible. So I was worried about that. Like, I was a little worried about how it would sit on the wrist, and how like comfortability, because I want to wear my watches. I don't want to have to worry. Like, there's like, I have the Samurai, which is huge. It's ridiculous. But like, I can't go and play football in it, in the yard, because when I go to catch a ball and my wrist bends, that crown digs into my hand so badly. But the curves on your watch are so comfortable. It's incredible how comfortable that watch is to wear.
John, what size is the Mastergraph, by the way?
So it's not a perfect square. So left to right, 9 to 3 o'clock is 38 millimeters. And then from 12 to 6 is 41.5 millimeters. And then for tight, it's 10.4 millimeters.
Yeah. It fits really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I actually, like, it could be bigger in my opinion. Not like you should make them bigger. I'm just saying, like, I could pull off a bigger version of that. Cause like, I think me and Catlin have about the same size. We're around like 6.5 inches on our wrist size, but
it works out very well.
Yeah.
For us.
What's the perfect sweet spot for you girls in terms of watch size?
I think we are both like, to me, 39 to 40 is my, or maybe even like 38 to 40, depending on the type of watch, is probably my personal favorite.
I would say 40 to 42.
Yeah.
Like I
oh,
do.
Wow.
I like them. Yeah. I like them a little bigger. But 40, I feel like I think is a really, really good spot.
I think for something that's like a non-diver, non-chronograph,
I don't have those. So
Yeah. You
I
have your
don't,
Pilot, like you have
yeah,
your Stova.
which is also 40.
Which is 40, which
Yeah,
is like a
fair.
really good size. And then
Fair.
for, I like divers especially, I like them to be a little bit on the bigger side because
Yeah.
I think they look best. But
I think anything sporty should be bigger.
yeah, I think that surprises quite a few people that we do prefer larger watches. I
And
had
on a bracelet,
Yeah.
make them heavy.
Yeah.
Like just weigh me down. I keep trying to convince myself that I can pull off an Omega Ploprov, but like not the new titanium ones. Like I want the old heavy stainless steel one. I'm still not sure how that's gonna feel. So
You just have one arm
I'll tell you,
that's bigger
you
than the
girls
other.
were talking with DJ on the last podcast,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Oris does the most, in my personal opinion, the most beautiful diver watches, like all around, from the aesthetics. It doesn't have to be a heavy, heavy diver.
Yeah.
But it's like the perfect balanced diver watch that you could ever get.
Yeah, well, I think what they do really well is that they don't look like your typical diver, and they really play with colors and finishing a little bit more so than some of the other brands do, where a lot of other brands go for the real tool watch look and very industrial, and yeah, Oris does like these really beautiful colors, and I like it a lot, and Catelyn I know has loved her time with the Aquas that she
So
had,
much.
the mint green dial, which is really cool too. I was talking with a couple people yesterday. I had a post on Instagram that I posted a 34 millimeter Rolex Air King that
Oh,
I used
yeah.
to have, and I posted that I got rid of it because it was a little bit on the smaller side for me. And I think
Oh.
a lot of guys, did you see the comments?
Yes.
A lot of guys took offense. They were like, that watch should not be small. Like, it fits my wrist perfectly. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not saying that this watch is a small watch. Like,
It's just
I just prefer larger. You can prefer smaller watches, and I think like those 34 millimeter like oyster cases, they look great on men. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, like I just like bigger watches, and I was like, oh my gosh, I did not mean to offend so many people.
you're wrist shaming people. How dare you?
You have to speak your mind. We appreciate it. There's too many people that think alike. If you have a different opinion, it's appreciated even that much more.
Yeah, I know. It's just so many people are so sensitive about their wrists. It's funny.
It's hilarious. I
It's
don't
like,
understand.
I could care. Like, if you want to wear a ginormous watch, go ahead. If you love that watch, I will love you for it.
Yeah.
If you are passionate about that watch, I do not care. Like, you love that watch on your wrist. But I'm not the wrist police. You wear what you want to wear. Like,
Say that once more. Wrist police? Is
Wrist
that what you
police.
said?
Please.
The wrist
We should
police.
start that.
Oh boy.
Just start that as a
You
hashtag.
should make that into like a graphic T-shirt design.
10 and 2 t-shirts coming soon.
Yeah.
Well, so you have the Retrograph and the Mastergraph. Is there any plans to do something a little bit different? Maybe like a non-chronograph or maybe a different case design?
So that was a loaded question when I asked, like, what's your sweet spot for like a sizable
he's
watch?
like, he's writing.
He's doing all his research.
I'm taking notes. I'm like, what watch would they like? Because I'm working on a new one. And I am. And
Great
the
dial,
next one
just to
I'm working
clarify.
on, it's a smidge smaller by almost a millimeter from the Mastergraph. And you say, oh my gosh, a smaller? How small of a watch could this be? But Kat made a good point. It depends on the type of watch.
Mhm.
So the next watch would be on a full stainless steel bracelet. So although the
nice.
watch is a little smaller, it's coming on a more robust bracelet, which gives almost like another part of balance to it. So if the watch is smaller, it's made up and compensated with this steel bracelet.
Yeah.
And so this one's also going to be mechanically driven. So you're getting the weight of the bracelet, you're getting the weight of the movement, and the case is a little bit smaller and chiseled down. And this would be a 300 with a date.
Okay.
So
very
this would be
cool.
your retro dress watch.
Nice.
And so this one is a total experiment of dial texture and dial color,
Nice.
and as many, I would say 3 layers of a sandwich style. So, I'll tell you, and you may see this pattern with other micros as you interview different folks, is the longer you do this, the more you want to experiment and try new things with your watches.
Yeah.
Because when you're designing and making watches, sure, you need to make watches people will wear and buy, but you need to make watches that will excite you in the process, And so the more I do this, the more I want to kind of challenge myself and try something completely new. If you look for a watch and you lay out a whole bunch on the table. Would this stand out? Not stand out just for the sake of standing out, but stand out in its own personal, DNA. It has its own identity to it. It has to stand out for the right reason. So this is what I'm working on chiseling and refining more and more through the collection. And so I'm working on a piece now that I'm hoping to have ready for winter of this year. It's just complete experiment, still within the same family, but just a fragment smaller than the Mastergraph by like a millimeter.
Nice. Yeah, we perked our ears up.
Yeah, a lot. Like a little too much, probably.
We're getting excited already. So with that in mind, is there any changes that will come to either the Mastergraph or the Retrographs? Any new dial colors or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the Retrograph I've had on hold for like 4 months now.
Yeah.
And so making it completely from scratch, like blocks of stainless steel or stamping, CNC, finishing brand new pieces. So I'm going to have that ready in about 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
And so that is because there's been a long list. And even myself, I don't even have a watch for myself now. It's like I sold all of them, which is great for as a business owner.
Sold the shirt off your back.
But, I'll tell you one thing I learned from this previous brand I worked for. I would rather underproduce and, make what I'm capable of handling and QCing and delivering. But I've worked with some folks that overproduce.
Yeah.
They don't test it. So this gives me the capability and oversight to say, I feel comfortable producing this. I feel comfortable releasing this. And, if there's a demand for it, look closer. Don't always just double down just because people might want it now. Because also with watches, sometimes it's like fast fashion. It might be really interesting this season, but, people's desires and demands might change next season. So as much as it sometimes pushes people away, I do like the idea of limited run and being frank about it, not just reproducing after you say that. But as a brand owner, it gives you much more flexibility in terms of not overproducing something that you're not too sure of.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's just kind of like bad business to make too much of something and then you have, all this stock kind of sitting around. But I don't think that'll be a problem for you.
Well, and I think
based on like your website, like, everything's sold out right now.
I think that's the sweet spot of micro brands is, you don't have to count on like the limited editions, things like that. Like the limited run, it's kind of what makes micro brands so neat is that, first of all, you're supporting a local business, you're supporting a smaller business. And a lot of times you're supporting people that you talk to. Like I know, most of the micro brands we talk to, anytime like you DM these people, you're DMing the owner of the micro brand. It's just phenomenal. But you're getting a watch that's not mass produced and it's not going to be mass produced.
And you can actually like get a hold of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so nice. Like I do love the idea that, I have a couple of micro brand watches and I love the idea that, well, there's only so many people who have these watches as well. And, here in a year, it's not still going to be sold. And, there's a little bit of FOMO and missing out on some pieces too. But overall, the appeal is still there and it kind of, I don't know, it excites me knowing that they're not just mass produced and they're not just sitting around on a shelf for years and years and years, waiting to be sold because you have so much stock. I always think about that. Like you have watches from bigger brands that, or even going through an AD, you have watches that like are old and that they're still sitting there. So by the time these watches get sold, you have to worry about servicing or something like that because they've been sitting around for so long.
Yeah. Well, on the other end, I think you made a good point when you were speaking with VJ. Sometimes it is good to have variety. So I think there needs to be a balance. I'm in a terrible situation where everything's sold out. It's never good for people that are shopping. But I think variety is also good. So to that point, I think we still have to work on having a good shopping experience. So there's a balance.
I mean, you seem to be doing pretty well. I think there's probably a handful of micro brands that I can think of that you ask a watch enthusiast about and they can just name off, and you're one of them. And you guys are doing fantastic. And is there plans to go to Wind Up maybe this year?
Oh, so Wind Up is still in effect. It just depends on, the scope of
right.
When will things get better. But as far as the folks at Warren Wound, shout out to them because they're super cool too, is that like I don't know. I mean, nobody knows, but
Yeah.
they are, they're always 100%. If there's any room to make it work, yeah, they will make it work.
Yeah.
And they're really good. I could tell you my personal experience when we were supposed to go to San Francisco, but that got cut because of this. They were very good in terms of emailing us on the daily. Hey guys, we're still watching the news and we'll keep you updated if anything new arises. So they're good in terms of updating. And keeping everyone informed, looking out for people's safety.
Yeah.
Like all around, really, really good folks, very professional. And just all around, like you can have a good conversation and they're honest about everything. So, we'll see if there's more shows this year. I really hope so, but I only hope so if it's safe. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, same. And we love the guys and the crew over at Warren Wound. They're super nice and they've been supporters of us since the beginning. But we actually we bought tickets to Wind Up Chicago, so we're hoping it happens. If not, then me and Catlin are just going to be in Chicago for a weekend.
We take advantage of some cheap flights for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you girls are going to have fun regardless. It doesn't matter. But the show would be great too.
Yeah, we'll hang out. We'll have a good time.
Yeah.
Crossing our fingers that things get better and Chicago can still happen. And if not, then we've started talking about maybe even New York too.
Yeah.
Because we really want to go to Wind Up. I think there's not a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff that happens here in the States as far as watch fairs, but that's one that really excites me the most. So yeah, knock on wood, we'll get to go.
It is the most special experience that I think anybody could have, watch enthusiasts or just general public.
Yeah.
The amount of good energy in the air, one, but two, all the folks that you're meeting with, it's not just sales reps and nothing against them. Everybody is informing folks of watches, and that is amazing. And you're also getting all the owners and designers and manufacturers. So the level of knowledge under one roof, plus that positive energy, you leave feeling like a whole new person.
Yeah, I bet.
and you love your watches so much more, and you're looking at pieces differently. It's a changing experience, a really positive changing experience.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, this is their one chance to get hands on with a lot of the micro brands that are there, because you guys do the online platform. So so many people are excited to go, and again, I really hope we can make it out. It looks like so much fun. Maybe.
We'll go.
Shout out if anyone, if it doesn't happen, we're gonna be in Chicago that weekend. If anyone wants to wants to come
watch
and hang
party.
out.
Watch party, exactly. We'll just have our own
10 and 2 watch party.
Yeah, there you go. Our own.
I'll have my t-shirt,
The
Risk
first
Police.
official. That'll be shortly before our 1 year anniversary.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's true.
So we can just do that big in Chicago.
Yeah.
Why not?
People are gonna geek out. I would geek out if I saw you too. Like, oh my God, they're here in person.
I don't think most people know what we look like, thank goodness, but
I don't know. You've
We
done
are
enough
on
Instagram Lives now.
yeah,
And you've done
you're out there.
Instagram Lives. Yeah, we're out there.
we're out there.
We're out there for sure.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, so speaking of, just kind of the climate that things are in now, how do you find that is affecting your business as far as production and supply and things like that?
That's a very good question. So, when I work with making my watches, I work with a whole variety of different manufacturers, everyone from Switzerland to Asia and assembly and even Japan. So it's tough to get everybody in the same working controlled environment.
Yeah.
And so my experience, and it's different for everyone, is that it definitely slowed down February and March, because workers, although everybody was healthy, were not going into work. There was regulations and protocols that you were not allowed to go into work. And if there was even one ill worker, that the entire factory be shut down for 3 weeks. There was all these really strict rules, and I applaud them for doing it. So even working with Sellita, I was awaiting movements from them, and they're saying, we're also running the same pattern where we have to wait X amount of weeks before we can open the doors again. Rest assured, your payment, your movements, everything is fine. There's just going to be a minor delay. Luckily, that's for a watch that won't be made until the winter time.
Yeah.
So that was okay. But in terms of like manufacturing, like the pieces that I actually want to have ready in the next few weeks, months. Yeah, it was a delay of about like a month and a half. But I'll tell you, through communications with all these different manufacturers, it wasn't, we need this right away, or, there was no selfish attitude on either side. It was just, I hope you take care of yourselves. Don't rush this. Don't, whatever you need to do, it even got to the point, it's just like, if there's anything I can, if you need me to make an order of X or Y, I know things are, what I was experiencing was there was even bigger brands, because as a micro, we're very little, in terms of production and volume that we do. They were telling us, oh, the big guys are canceling orders. Sometimes the industry's getting a little bit of cold. It's not as warm as it should have been.
Yeah.
So that's scary when manufacturers are saying, people are canceling their orders.
Yeah.
So it's a whole ripple effect. That means retailers, physical spaces around the world are canceling orders. Distribution slowing down. It trickles down to the manufacturer, and he's just saying that the orders that should be exponential right now are like little to none, and you could feel them sweating through contacting them.
I bet.
But at the same time, you're letting them know, because you have a lot invested with them, and everything is on a specific lead time. You want to know that you're going to have something at a certain time, but it all gets lost and forgotten. The only mission is take care of yourself. Don't rush it. When everything is good, it's good.
Yeah.
And my point of view is I'll hunker down for a year if I have to. And if I don't have to sell any watches, that's fine. I would rather have that than find out any of my business partners got sick, got hurt, died, anything like that. It's just, let's just hunker down, wait it out.
Yeah.
To which they replied, on a weekly basis, oh, we're starting at 10% capacity or 20%. And as that potentially grew, it's just like, great, and then it became back to normal.
Well, that's great.
But the conversation was, a little eerie at first, but it finally got its feedback.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I think as far as customers go, I think everyone's being a little bit more understanding that, we're not going to see a whole lot, at least for the next few months. It's understandable. I mean, people have been shut down, like literally shut down. So yeah. It's exciting though that you guys are planning something new, and I'm sure your fans will love it.
Yeah. I think this is a good time to experiment too. Like if you're not doing a full production, I don't endorse doing a full production right now if you don't need to. Like, that's a ton of funding.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to create prototypes and sample and experiment and test new things, and you have the capacity to do that, I would say do that now. If there's no need to put out too much funding and investment of different things, experiment, try new things. This is a very good time. There's no real vacation here, but if you want to be efficient, where can you put your time that's going to be valuable for you after everything is back to normal? Because eventually, fingers crossed that things will get back to normal and it'll settle down. And when you come through the gates of we're here again normally, you don't want to be left with where you were before all this. You want to come out with something valuable.
Yeah.
And I think you girls have done a fantastic job of engaging with your audience, continuing to do podcasts, sharing images daily. You're really you're making the most of a terrible situation, and I think more people need to continue doing this. And that's where I would want to come out, after everything comes back to normal.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think this is a good time to feel the waters and see what works, what doesn't. We've played around with a bunch of different stuff in the last few weeks, and I've seen you, your marketing and your photographs, and you're getting better, and I'm you're catching my eye more, and
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
The photography lately is phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. And you've been doing some really cool video stuff, and I've just been super impressed. So I think this is a time to play around and see what works, and
Well, and this is a neat time too, because you get to really see what people like and what people don't like, and you get to really engage with people that maybe on a day-to-day basis you wouldn't have had as much time for before.
Yeah.
Now we have all the time in the world. We joked around with Nicholas from Fears. I feel like I'm almost getting carpal tunnel in my hands from being on my phone so much and texting so much. But you do, like, you get to spend so much more time talking to people and getting to know, your fan base and your community and just the community in general. And
Yeah.
it's really neat.
I think a lot of brands are taking the opportunity to obviously reach more out to the community. It's working for them, and even some of the big guys that are doing it. And I'm hoping that trend doesn't go away, that we don't see them crawl back into their factory holes and we don't see them again. I'm hoping, not from the micros specifically, because you guys are always really active, but from the bigger brands, I'm hoping that we see more of them and we get to talk to them and do more of the interactive stuff. I hope that doesn't go back to the way things were before. But I think they're seeing a change in that.
Yeah.
And that's with everybody. So it's been fun. And so Jonathan, I'm going to give you a shout out on here because I think maybe it was earlier this week, Fred Savage was taking over the Hodinkee stories.
Yes.
And someone asked him if there was any micro brands that he liked. And he gave a shout out to Oak and Oscar and you. And I was like, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Freaking Fred Savage, loves your watches. How awesome is that?
It was unbelievable, and I didn't know until you shared with me that Fred Savage shared it, because I wasn't getting around to the Instagram that day.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I said, "Who is this? Who is sharing?" Fred Savage is doing an AMA right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! These are those moments where sometimes you try not to become numb to engaging with so many different folks. You really want to appreciate the singularity of each special folks that share it. And for Fred Savage to share the Technicolor retrograph, I was like,
yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I was sending that to my parents. I was like, look, check this out, 'cause they know Fred Savage.
Yeah.
They were just they were really proud and excited to see, that people, not just Fred Savage, because, at the end of the day, people are people,
Yeah.
but folks that are still continuing to share and appreciate the watches, and that's success.
Yeah.
People, the big guys look at sales numbers. We on the micro scale look at, who's sharing and what's the feedback.
Yeah.
And that was a success moment right there. And it's like, holy cow, having a drink to that tonight.
Yeah, that was so cool. I was even geeking out. I was like, this is awesome. All right. So as we sort of, bring the episode to an end, we have started this tradition now where we do this fast round of questions. And you just answer as fast as you can. I think there's is there 10 on here?
10.
There's 10. Okay. There's 10 questions. And we'll go back and forth.
Just to get to know you better.
Yeah. And they're not really
right.
watch related stuff either. They're fun stuff. So
Fun.
You down for that?
Let's do it.
All right. So what is your favorite emoji?
The little whiskey drink.
I feel like that says a lot about you as a person. Do you prefer the beach or the mountains?
Mountains.
All right. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Flying.
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Air Force pilot.
Oh.
Oh, what happened to that?
My eyes weren't good enough. My parents were like, stay away from the military. You're going to get hurt.
Those parents, man. Crush your dreams.
Always trying to keep you safe.
All right. So Beatles or Stones?
Stones.
Pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
All right. If you could be reincarnated as any animal, what would it be?
Ooh, great question. I'm going straight to panda, but I think that's because I'm looking at my watch right now.
Wherever you draw
That's
inspiration.
okay.
What is your secret talent?
I can run very fast.
Yeah, yours are really tall too. I've heard that
I got those long legs. It helped when I was bullied as a little kid.
Oh,
They
you
come
got-
after me after school. I would dart so quick they couldn't get me.
My little mama heart. Poor Jonathan.
Train your kids to run quickly. That's
Aw.
it.
It's a good talent to have. Saves your life. Poor guy. All right. So what is your favorite snack?
It's a good one. Ooh, Sargenta. Sargenta or Sargentos. They have these delicious little nuts and cheese packets.
Oh,
together.
yes. Those are
one.
everything.
Those are good.
I love those things. Okay, and then what is the first place you're going after stay at home is lifted?
Although I shouldn't because there's so many people, but the Met. I love the Met.
Fun.
Yeah.
So the Metropolitan Museum of Art
Yeah.
in New York City. There's something about museums that's just so calming
Mhm.
and beautiful, and you can really collect your thoughts. And there's a few rooms in there where the natural light is so good. Get a good wrist shot. But yeah,
Do it
when
for the
it's
gram.
safe, because the museum is definitely not on the list of places I'd go just yet.
Yeah.
But I miss the
there's
museums
nothing.
a lot.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think we all have that place that like we really want to go.
Let me turn that on you guys.
Oh, God.
You girls, where would you like to go where everything is safe again?
I just want to go to the beach. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at. Like, I had to cancel my spring break trip, so I'm really itching to go to the beach. Yeah, I just want to relax. Like, I know I've had all this time off work, but it's just different. Like, when you're stuck at home, I get very stir crazy anyways. I don't do well, like, being stuck. So I just want to go lay out on the beach in the sun, get a tan. I miss being tan. And just drinking margaritas.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Mhm.
mine's like more or less the same. Like, I just want to kind of get away right now. I feel like we've been hunkered down for a little bit, and it may not even be anywhere specific. I just want to go out. I want to get out of the house. I want to, walk around and not have to worry. And yeah, that's a good answer. The beach
Yeah.
is a really good one.
My real world.
Do you have any good tips for the listeners if you're stuck at home still? Any good solutions to stay entertained and healthy?
I just did a bake-off with my son yesterday. It took the
Ooh.
entire day. It was so fun. Like, it's hard because he's 13 and, I'm not usually like a video game person. I don't like him playing video games all day, but, it's hard right now. Like, he can't hang out with friends. He can't do anything else. So, and we can't, like, I usually plan us going places. So it makes, everything more difficult. So we like to watch a show on Netflix called Nailed It, which is where just a bunch of like normal people try and make cakes, and it's always a disaster. So we decided to do our own, and it took the entire day, and we each made our own cake, and it was fun, and it was something he was excited about, which is rare for like teenagers to be excited about doing anything. So like I think just trying to do something that you usually wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Like I've done the cleaning, I've done my fair share of day drinking. I've read a lot, but it was just like it was something totally different.
And now when you had those it was two cakes, right? There was like one lemon cake and then there was like one colorful cake.
Yes, we each made a cake.
Which one did you make?
I made the colorful one. Kat has them.
Ah.
She has some samples downstairs.
I'm gonna be the final judge on like the taste
On
test.
the taste test.
I voted on the colorful cake between the
yes.
two, but
That was
let
me.
us know which one tastes better.
That was me. But like neither of us have worked with fondant or like anything fancy. Like I've made cakes, but not like fancy cakes.
Yeah.
So I was very excited at how they turned out.
I was very impressed. Like
I
yours
was so
good.
You're
impressed.
definitely coming out of this as a better baker.
Maybe. I don't think my waistline will approve of that.
Yeah.
but I had
That's
cake for
okay.
breakfast this morning before I came here.
For me, I think that I encourage people, and I know this is kind of like a lot of states may be coming out of, quarantine at this point, but, trying to learn something new. I just got into making my own coffee instead of using like the K-cups and the Keurig, and it's not even anything big, but it's something that I find enjoyment in, and it's not really meditating, but it kind of is at the same time. When you take, those 10 minutes and you're gathering everything together, and it's really relaxing, and knowing you made like a really, really, really good cup of coffee makes it kind of worth it.
I should have you make me one.
I know.
I've seen you make it twice now. I need to have you just
it's not
make
that
me
bad.
one.
Caitlin's like, you like that? I want you to make me one.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you,
I have no
you
problem.
enjoy
I will
doing
do
it
it.
so
I will do
much.
it.
Have my cake, I'll give you coffee.
Yeah, there you go. That coffee and cake, that sounds pretty good.
Ooh, that does sound good.
But yeah, just like maybe trying something new or picking up an old hobby that you didn't have, maybe reading. And for me, it's like getting outside every day. I have to go sit outside. I'll take my computer, enjoying what otherwise I wouldn't be able to do, which at work, I'm inside of a building all day, every day. So
That's true.
the fact that I can go outside and I can, do something, I can be productive and sit out there. Yeah. I think being outside, I don't know, it's just good for your mind.
It's for the soul.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
what about
definitely.
you? Like, how have you been passing some time?
I'll tell you, I feel like I'm on my phone a lot more. You say carpal tunnel. I'm afraid
Like my thumbs
that my little
hurt.
thumbs are gonna, yeah.
They hurt.
But sometimes I think it is good to just turn off. And
Yeah.
I hear you with the coffee too. I'll do a slow pour over just because I know it takes longer,
Yeah.
and it's gonna give me the same product. But I think it's okay to turn off, slow down, and I think right now the most important thing I always tell my parents is to pace your mind. Don't look at this as you're gonna get out next week and think that's your finish line.
Mhm.
Pace your mind for each day.
Yeah.
Slow down. But as you said, like you want to come out of this like learning something new. So I've been reading more. I went out a couple times on the motorcycle just to get that fresh air. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to interact with me, so that was safe.
Yeah.
But
Are you making your
it's like,
deliveries on the bike too?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
They,
I've
they
seen a
love
couple
it.
of like your Instagram stories. I was like, man, this guy's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll be in full suit, like full leather suit, helmet, neck. Like there's no skin showing, but I'll still put rubber gloves on. I'll open the doors,
Yeah.
and you can't see my face. Everything is mirrored, and they're just like, John, like delivery.
I'm sure at this
And
point they know who you are.
oh boy, yeah, they do. I'll tell you, it's so nice because it's times like this where it's the most challenging that you get to test and see. Not that you're testing, but you get to see how good people are,
Yeah.
right? So you
Mhm.
see who's there for you in the worst of times, and these are the relationships once you come out of this that you're gonna really get to enjoy for the rest of your life. So that's what if you have to look at the silver lining, is this is a test of people's true colors
Yeah.
that I
Absolutely.
can't wait for it to be better again, so I could enjoy time with all these really wonderful folks that have been good before this, have been better during this challenging time, and then like let's go on a rooftop somewhere and have a drink and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I think
can't wait
we've
for that.
seen a lot of that. Like you can really see like who these companies are, whether it's a restaurant or something, and how they've treated everyone during this time and treated their employees. And you hear stories, and I know there's been like several kind of big restaurants in Nashville that haven't done very well with their employees. And
Mhm.
you know what? Nashville remembers. Like
We're a small big town,
and we're about
so-
treating people right
Yeah.
and good, and yeah, so it's not good for some, but I think a lot of people have done well, and yeah, it's good to see. Like it's good to see the good in people too. Like
agree.
I know when
Yeah.
I picked up, I was probably your watch actually that came in. I went to pick it up at our UPS box, and they're like, hey Kat, like they haven't seen me in like, because we haven't got any watches in quite a while,
Yeah.
but they're like, they're so nice. And like you, it's just kind of fun when you realize that, oh, people do remember me, like I'm not just like a face that comes
Yeah.
in there. So it's fun. But yeah, we've had a blast having you on the show today. It's been great.
Well, thank you again for having me. It really meant a lot.
No, thank you. It was an absolute pleasure, like
Yeah.
Kat said. So, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you in Brew Watches?
Yeah, definitely. So if you go to brewwatches.com or on Instagram at brewwatches, you'll be able to find me and all the new releases and watches in the future.
And then we'll have all of the links to everything on our show notes on our website, www.10and2.com. And make sure you guys are following us along on Instagram and Facebook at 10and2 Media.
Yeah.
And that's it.
All right, guys.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.